You've been giving away your power your whole life, and most of the time, you didn't even notice it. Every time you reacted to someone who didn't deserve it. Every time you explained yourself to people who would never understand. Every moment you allowed someone else's words or actions to disturb your peace, you surrendered a piece of your freedom. The world kept moving, indifferent to the battles you carried inside your mind. And yet, the power you've been seeking has always been within you, quiet, steady, unshakable, waiting for you to claim it. Stoicism teaches that nothing external can harm you unless you allow it. The moment you guard your attention, restrain your reactions, and hold your peace as sacred, you reclaim the authority that was never meant to leave your hands. True strength is silent. True freedom is deliberate. Every choice to protect your energy, every pause before reacting, every measured moment of restraint builds the life you were capable of living all along. It is in these moments of quiet intention that clarity emerges, priorities become clear, and the distractions that once dictated your thoughts begin to fade. Strength, after all, is not in force or volume. It is in the calm mastery of self. Every word you speak, every argument you join, every reaction you offer carries weight. But often it is weight that does not belong to you. It clogs your thoughts, drains your energy, and keeps you tethered to matters that will never serve your life. You feel compelled to explain, to correct, to justify, but the only person who truly needs understanding is yourself. Your time, your attention, and your calm are rare forms of wealth. Once given freely to the unworthy, they cannot be reclaimed. Think of attention as currency. When spent on those who demand it without return, it is lost. When invested in people and pursuits aligned with your purpose, it compounds, enriching your mind and your life. Each reaction given without thought is a withdrawal from your account. Over time, your reserves are depleted. Conserving attention is not weakness, it is mastery. Imagine someone attempting to provoke you. Their words are designed to pull you into a whirlwind that benefits only them. Every time you react, you confirm their influence. But when you withhold a response, you deny them that power. They are left confused, uncertain, trapped in the void you create. Meanwhile, your mind remains clear. Your heart stays steady, your energy intact. What they hope to steal returns to you, multiplied by restraint. When people try to pull you into conflict, they reveal themselves, not you. Their need for attention, dependence on drama, and compulsion to validate themselves become clear. The more you resist responding, the more evident it becomes that their attempts have no effect. The quiet observer holds the advantage because they operate from control, not reaction. Every pause, every withheld word, every measured silence becomes a shield. Within that shield you are untouchable. You may wonder if indifference appears cold or uncaring. It is anything but. It is a conscious choice to protect your inner state, to prioritize what matters, to live according to values rather than impulses. Caring selectively, engaging purposefully, and investing only in what is meaningful forms the foundation of resilience. It creates a life where external chaos touches you lightly, if at all, because you have chosen which forces deserve space in your consciousness. If you value your focus, your calm, and the mastery of your own mind, consider subscribing. It's a deliberate step toward living intentionally, protecting your energy, and embracing the quiet strength that comes from self-mastery. The power of choice manifests most clearly in the small, repeated decisions, the messages left unanswered, the arguments avoided, the debates declined. Each time you refrain from giving away your attention, you strengthen your sovereignty. You build an internal fortress that is impervious to manipulation, immune to distraction, and impervious to the trivial demands of others. The fortress is not built with walls of hostility, but with boundaries of discernment, with habits of reflection, and with the deliberate allocation of energy. Understanding your triggers is essential. The situations that provoke anger, The words that spark defensiveness, the criticism that unsettles you, these are the points where control can slip. To master yourself is not to avoid these triggers, but to meet them with measured response, with calm observation, and ultimately with the choice to do nothing. Every time someone calls your name in accusation or attempts to elicit reaction, you decide whether it is worthy of your attention. That decision is your power. Silence has consequences that words cannot replicate. It is a mirror in which others see themselves, not you. It denies them validation, leaves them suspended in uncertainty, and reveals the futility of their attempts to manipulate. While they expend effort trying to elicit a response, you preserve your focus, energy, and clarity. Time spent in restraint is not wasted. It is invested in your growth, your understanding, and your unshakable composure. To act without reaction, to exist without compulsion, is to live aligned with principle rather than impulse. You begin to observe life rather than be pulled into it. You conserve energy for matters that serve your purpose and release the illusion of obligation to those who demand it without merit. Each withheld response reinforces your autonomy, each moment of restraint strengthens your inner stability, and each conscious choice not to engage preserves your peace. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." By resisting the compulsion to explain, defend, or react, you discover the true contours of your own mind. You see clearly where your energy is spent, what you value, and which interactions matter. You cultivate clarity, resilience, and discernment. The act of ignoring the unnecessary, of refusing to react, becomes a mirror, reflecting not the chaos of the world, but the stability of your own reason. By choosing where your attention goes, by selecting which provocations you meet and which you let pass, you reclaim your life. You become the architect of your mental landscape, the guardian of your calm, the master of your inner state. Every interaction, every potential disturbance is filtered through judgment aligned with purpose. The discipline of non-reaction, of measured silence, transforms the ordinary into opportunity and the chaotic into manageable. This is the beginning of mastery, not mastery over others, but over self. The strength to remain unmoved, the clarity to see value, and the patience to conserve energy form the foundation of inner power. Each choice, each deliberate moment of restraint brings you closer to the life you were capable of living all along. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." By learning not to react, you reduce unnecessary suffering. You discover that most disturbances have power only if you grant them entry. By withholding reaction, you deny them. You return focus to your goals, your purpose, your serenity. This is not avoidance, it is strategy. This is self-mastery. When you stop giving away pieces of yourself in fruitless conflict, when you guard your attention as a sacred resource, and when you choose silence over reaction, you are no longer at the mercy of the world. You move deliberately, act with purpose, and conserve what is truly yours. The strength to withhold, the courage to ignore, and the wisdom to remain unmoved form the essence of living a life of reason, freedom, and stoic power. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By exercising restraint, you exercise freedom. Every moment you resist the pull of unnecessary engagement, you reclaim energy, preserve calm, and assert your sovereignty. Reaction is a choice, and by choosing carefully, you choose the life you wish to lead. Attention is a form of currency. Every glance, every word, every moment spent on someone is an investment. Unlike money, it cannot be earned back once spent, and yet most of us give it away carelessly, hoping for gratitude, recognition, or approval that rarely arrives. The effort poured into justifying ourselves, explaining our choices, or reacting to provocations is returned in chaos, distraction, or frustration. And the truth is, No one benefits more from that exchange than the one who disrupts your calm. When you guard your attention, when you choose silence over reaction, you reclaim the control that has been quietly slipping from your hands. The power is not in engaging, but in discerning where your energy matters and where it does not. Each moment spent deliberately, each interaction chosen carefully, is a reinforcement of autonomy. Every withheld response is a reclaiming of your own life, an assertion that your inner state is not a resource to be exploited by anyone who happens to demand it. Consider the people who constantly pull at your focus, the ones who thrive on drama, the ones who feed on conflict, the ones who seek validation by drawing you into their turbulence. Each time you respond, each time you react, you give them proof that they have control. But when you choose not to, when your attention becomes a scarce commodity, the balance shifts. The energy they expected to draw from you is no longer available, and the consequences are not obvious at first, but they are profound. The discipline to guard attention is not about ignoring responsibilities or abandoning care. It is about prioritizing what aligns with your purpose and values. It is about recognizing that your energy is finite and precious, and that its allocation is a reflection of your priorities. By treating attention as sacred, you enforce a standard for interactions, one that discourages exploitation and encourages meaningful engagement. When every word, glance, and gesture is intentional, the world begins to operate under your terms, and you reclaim a quiet authority over your life. Imagine the difference it would make if every conversation you entered, every response you considered, was measured against a single question. Does this deserve my attention? The habitual reflex to react, to explain, to justify, fades when faced with deliberate choice. In its place emerges clarity, presence, and control. The moments that once scattered your focus are transformed into opportunities for growth, understanding, and composure. You begin to move through life not at the mercy of distraction, but as a steward of your own energy. Every refusal to engage unnecessarily is a statement of value. By withholding attention from those who seek to exploit it, you signal that your calm and focus are not negotiable. The response, or absence of it, becomes more powerful than any argument, more effective than any explanation. Others may attempt to provoke or demand your energy, but in choosing not to provide it, you retain your sovereignty. The quiet observer, untouched by drama and undistracted by trivialities, exerts influence simply by being controlled, deliberate, and unreactive. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." When you engage reflexively, you allow transformation according to external influence. But when attention is guarded, when reactions are withheld, transformation occurs on your terms. You become the agent of change in your own life, rather than the instrument of someone else's impulses. Silence and measured presence create a power that cannot be taken, a space where your purpose remains undisturbed. Seneca once said, "We are always complaining that our days are few and acting as though there would be no end of them." The same principle applies to attention and energy. Time and focus are limited. Their expenditure without reflection is a kind of theft from yourself. By being selective, by choosing where to engage and where to remain silent, you recover that which would otherwise be lost. You convert fleeting moments into lasting influence, inconsequential reactions into deliberate power. The quiet mastery of attention is the cornerstone of self-mastery itself. Consider how different your life would feel if each interaction was deliberate rather than reflexive. If each glance, each conversation, each decision to respond or remain silent was measured, you would discover an unseen strength. The world may still move unpredictably, but your inner state would remain constant, unshaken, and sovereign. Attention given selectively is influence earned naturally. Energy preserved becomes the soil in which purpose and achievement grow. By treating attention as currency, by investing only in what matters, you shape a life governed by intention rather than compulsion. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Guarding attention is mastery. Choosing silence over reaction is freedom. By reclaiming the moments that others hope to exploit, by discerning where focus belongs, you create a life where chaos, provocation, and distraction hold no dominion. The discipline to protect your energy is the foundation of all self-mastery. With each deliberate pause, each measured engagement, you assert the freedom that has always been yours, and you cultivate a mind that is unassailable, calm, and unshakable. From this place of intentional attention, everything else follows. Decisions become clearer, priorities more evident, and actions more potent. By refusing to invest in the unworthy, you make room for what truly matters. You reclaim power that was never meant to leave your hands. Each choice to guard your attention compounds into a life of focus, clarity, and inner freedom. The world will attempt to pull you into reaction, but when you move deliberately, when your energy is reserved for what is meaningful, you navigate it on your own terms. The mastery of attention is the mastery of life itself. There is a subtle force in the act of withholding a response. When others expect conflict and find none, their assumptions crumble. The need to provoke, to manipulate, to disturb is an energy they have invested in vain, and all the while you remain grounded, observing, and in full control of your own inner state. The Stoic path is clear here. Disturbances exist only if you permit them to. By practicing restraint, by letting silence speak for you, you reclaim authority over your own life, and you demonstrate a strength that is invisible but unmistakable. The power of silence lies not in passivity, but in choice. Every word you refrain from speaking is an assertion of control. Every unengaged provocation is a demonstration of your priorities. When you remain calm while others attempt to pull you into chaos, you create a psychological boundary that cannot easily be breached. Your mind is free, your focus unbroken, and your energy preserved. Others may act out of frustration or confusion, but the steadiness of your presence is a force that subtly reshapes the interaction without a single word exchanged. Silence also functions as a filter. When you engage selectively, when your responses are measured rather than reflexive, only matters worthy of your attention break through. Everything else fades into insignificance. You no longer expend energy on trivial conflicts, pointless debates, or attempts to prove yourself to those who will never understand. This is not avoidance. It is deliberate allocation of your mental and emotional resources. The moments once lost to reaction now become investments in clarity, composure, and strategic presence. Consider the unspoken message you send by remaining quiet. It communicates more than words ever could. Indifference, calm, and restraint create a gravity that draws attention without effort. People notice your steadiness. They perceive control and poise. Your silence becomes a presence in itself, commanding attention and respect. By mastering the art of measured non-engagement, you shape how the world interacts with you, and you preserve the most valuable resource you possess, your own energy. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence is a practical exercise of this principle. It is the refusal to surrender your inner life to external pressures, the conscious choice to remain undisturbed in the midst of chaos. By withholding the immediate response, by allowing the moment to pass without reaction, you reclaim autonomy. Your mind is no longer a battlefield for others' desires. It is a sanctuary of calm, observation, and deliberate action. The challenge, of course, is in consistency. Silence must be maintained not only in the easy moments, but also in the provocative ones. Every time someone expects a reaction and you choose not to provide it, you reinforce a habit of autonomy. You teach yourself that your peace is not negotiable and that your energy is not a commodity to be taken lightly. Over time, the habit strengthens, and the quiet authority it generates becomes instinctive. The person who understands the value of silence moves through the world with a gravity that cannot be fabricated, only earned through deliberate self-control. Through sustained practice, silence becomes more than a tactic. It becomes a state of being. It transforms reactive patterns into conscious choices. It turns wasted energy into preserved strength. It allows you to exist in a space where others' attempts to disrupt, provoke, or manipulate have little effect. In mastering silence, you cultivate resilience, clarity, and freedom, qualities that form the foundation of a life led intentionally, with reason as your guide, and with your inner peace held inviolable. Withdrawing strategically isn't about disappearing completely. It's about being present without being available, showing up in ways that serve your purpose while withholding your energy when it does not. The choice is deliberate, not reactive. Sometimes you engage fully, contributing where it matters. Sometimes you step back, allowing the rhythm of presence and absence to create an invisible gravity that draws attention without effort. This is the subtle power few ever master, yet it shapes perception more than any words or gestures ever could. Consider someone who constantly gives themselves away. Always answering messages immediately, always available, always accommodating. At first it seems like reliability, like commitment, but over time that constant availability dulls their presence. They become predictable, ordinary, taken for granted. The very openness meant to inspire connection now breeds familiarity and diminished impact. People notice, but they do not value, because value is created in scarcity, not ubiquity. Now, think about someone who is selective. They show up at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons. Their presence is felt because it is not guaranteed. Their absence leaves space for curiosity and reflection. Each appearance is intentional, each engagement meaningful. This is how influence is built quietly. Scarcity has power, and you become the one who decides who gains access to your energy. Your presence becomes currency, not something to spend recklessly. The same principle applies in every interaction in life, whether personal, professional, or social. By deciding when to be fully available and when to retreat, you dictate the terms of your relationships and engagements. You are no longer pulled into every demand, every drama, or every expectation. Instead, you move according to purpose, guided by values rather than reaction. Each withdrawal is not a denial of responsibility, but an assertion of control over your own energy. Silence and selective presence are intertwined. When you withdraw, you allow reflection, clarity, and observation to emerge. You see the patterns of others, the motives behind requests, and the nature of demands placed upon you. Those who seek constant access are often dependent on your attention, but when it is withheld, they must reckon with the value of what they hoped to consume. The shift in dynamics is subtle but undeniable. Power lies in the ability to make your absence meaningful without needing to explain it. This is where strategy becomes visible. When engagement is scarce and deliberate, people adjust their perception. They value time with you more because it is limited. They notice your contributions more because they are not ubiquitous. You create a rhythm that others cannot predict, and in that unpredictability lies influence. By stepping back intentionally, you allow curiosity, respect, and even longing to grow. The very act of not being constantly available communicates boundaries and self-respect far more effectively than words ever could. Carl Jung once said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." By selectively engaging, you observe rather than react. You maintain a measure of distance that allows clarity. You preserve your energy for what is meaningful and meaningful alone. By withdrawing strategically, you protect yourself from being manipulated, overextended, or distracted. Your presence becomes intentional, your actions deliberate, and your focus unbroken. Over time, this practice transforms the way you move through the world. No longer do you chase validation or attempt to prove yourself through constant engagement. Instead, you let others recognize your value through the restraint you exercise. You engage only when it aligns with purpose, withdrawing when it does not. Each decision to step back is a silent statement of autonomy. You teach others how to approach you, not by demand, but by merit. In this way, presence and absence operate together, creating influence without effort, respect without coercion, and attention without obligation. Epictetus once said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." The rhythm of strategic withdrawal is the practical application of this principle. What is within your power is your engagement, your energy, your focus. What is not is the constant demand of others, the expectations that do not serve your purpose, the chaos you cannot control. By choosing carefully where and when to invest yourself, you align action with power, creating a life that is guided by intention rather than reaction. By practicing selective presence, by stepping back deliberately, you cultivate a sense of scarcity that commands respect. People notice the effort, the value, and the boundaries you maintain. Your influence grows, not because of force or assertion, but because of the discernment you exercise in choosing where to appear. The careful allocation of attention becomes a tool of quiet authority. The moments you are present carry weight, and the moments you withdraw carry impact. You shape relationships, interactions, and outcomes simply through deliberate engagement and intentional absence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacles of expectation, demand, and pressure transform into instruments of influence when you master the rhythm of presence and absence. Every withdrawal, every measured engagement becomes a strategy that shapes perception, reinforces boundaries, and preserves your energy. The art of not being constantly available is an act of control, a practice of sovereignty, and a cultivation of inner strength that few ever learn to wield. By understanding the power inherent in selective engagement, by recognizing that absence can be as influential as presence, you move through life with subtle authority. Each interaction is governed by choice, each engagement purposeful, each withdrawal deliberate. This approach transforms ordinary participation into influence, chaotic demands into opportunity, and scattered energy into focused power. The quiet mastery of when to appear and when to step back is the key to shaping your life intentionally, guarding your energy, and commanding respect through the rhythm of presence and absence. Ignoring is more than withdrawal. It is psychological leverage, a deliberate act of preserving your energy while allowing the world to reveal its own patterns. When you choose not to respond to drama, criticism, or provocation, the person attempting to elicit a reaction is left with a void. Their mind begins to race, to fill the silence with questions, scenarios, and assumptions. They replay the interaction endlessly, searching for meaning or confirmation that will never come. Meanwhile, your own mind remains calm, focused, and undisturbed, anchored in the clarity of choice rather than the chaos of reaction. Imagine living like this every day, untouched by the turbulence others try to impose. You encounter criticism, gossip, and provocation, yet your mind is unshaken. Every word that could have drawn you into conflict instead slides past, unable to penetrate the walls of measured attention you have built. This practice does not isolate you from life. It positions you to engage with clarity and purpose, intervening only where your energy produces meaningful results. In learning to ignore, you create a space where influence comes from composure, not reaction, and where presence is recognized because it is earned, not given freely. The mind's need for closure works against those who attempt to manipulate through provocation. Human beings are wired to seek answers, to make sense of behavior and intent, and to restore equilibrium when it is disrupted. By remaining silent, you deny that closure, leaving others suspended in uncertainty. They are forced to confront the limits of their influence, while you retain the calm and focus that cannot be disturbed without consent. In this sense, ignoring is an act of self-preservation and subtle power, a way of demonstrating control without confrontation. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Each moment you choose not to react is a reaffirmation of that principle. You define your state of mind, your energy, and your priorities. The provocations of others no longer dictate your emotional or mental landscape. By exercising restraint and observing rather than responding, you become the architect of your own experience. Your calm is not given, it is claimed intentionally, and each act of ignoring strengthens the structure of your inner life. There is a profound clarity in refusing to feed negativity. When a person seeks to provoke, they are projecting their need for validation onto you. By denying it, you force them to face the reality of their own energy and intent. Their attempts to disturb you lose effect, and your focus remains uninterrupted. Indifference does not isolate you from opportunities or meaningful connections. It filters the engagements you allow into your life. Only interactions that align with purpose and value are met with response, while all others pass without effect. The discipline of ignoring requires patience and practice. Early attempts may feel uncomfortable, as the habitual compulsion to react is deeply ingrained. Yet with consistency, you begin to notice the impact not only on others, but on yourself. Your energy is preserved, your mind remains clear, and the space around you becomes one of deliberate calm. The people who previously drew power from your reactions lose their leverage, and you gain influence simply by maintaining equilibrium. This is mastery not over others, but over the environment of your own life. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Ignoring protects you from imagined offenses, from perceived slights, and from projections that others cast upon your mind. It allows you to live in the present, undisturbed by the unnecessary turbulence of others' expectations. Each moment of deliberate non-response preserves the clarity of your purpose, fortifies your mental and emotional boundaries, and reinforces the sovereignty of your inner life. The act of ignoring becomes a daily practice of self-mastery, reinforcing calm, resilience, and deliberate focus. When exercised consistently, ignoring becomes more than a tactic. It becomes a state of being. It turns habitual reactions into conscious choices. It transforms the chaotic energy of others into opportunities for observation and reflection. By maintaining this discipline, you protect your time, your energy, and your attention, while allowing the world to operate without extracting unnecessary cost from your life. The clarity, focus, and strength cultivated through this practice form the foundation for a life of intentionality, independence, and quiet influence. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." Ignoring what does not serve you, choosing silence over reaction, and preserving energy for what truly matters is the practical application of this wisdom. The world may attempt to provoke, distract, or manipulate, but your state of mind remains intact. By mastering the art of ignoring, you reclaim authority over your life, protect the precious resource of your attention, and navigate existence with calm, purpose, and unwavering clarity. Some people should be erased from your orbit entirely, not violently, not with confrontation, but quietly, completely. They are the ones who drain your energy, spread negativity, or manipulate your emotions without adding any value to your life. Their presence is not neutral. It consumes time, focus, and mental space, leaving less room for what truly matters. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is survival. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And when you allow others to siphon your vitality, you weaken your ability to act, to create, and to live intentionally. Every interaction requires an investment of attention, emotion, and thought. Most people give it freely, unaware of the cost, hoping for gratitude or recognition that rarely comes. But when you remove the unworthy, you reclaim that energy. You create a clear space for pursuits that matter, relationships that nourish, goals that align with your purpose, and activities that foster growth. Each moment of selective disengagement reinforces your sovereignty and strengthens the walls of your inner citadel. By consciously removing the unworthy from your orbit, you prevent them from dictating the terms of your life. You stop playing a game that was never yours to begin with. Their demands, provocations, and manipulations lose power because they are no longer fed by your attention or energy. In the silence that replaces engagement, clarity emerges. You can see which interactions contribute to growth, which people bring value, and which situations deserve your presence. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." By removing those who do not belong in your life, you turn your focus inward, observing your own values, priorities, and purpose. You awaken to the reality that energy is finite and that control over it is the foundation of true freedom. The people you remove do not diminish your life. They illuminate the space in which your own intentions can thrive. This is not about creating distance out of fear or resentment. It is about creating space for what is aligned with your principles. By erasing the unworthy, you make room for people and pursuits that reflect your values, your vision, and your priorities. The clarity that emerges allows you to act with intention, rather than being pulled by the chaos of demands, drama, and unnecessary conflict. You are no longer reactive. You are deliberate, measured, and sovereign in how you engage with the world. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." By eliminating the unworthy from your life, you follow this principle naturally. You surround yourself with those whose presence encourages growth, whose actions align with your values, and whose intentions are clear and honest. Every boundary you establish, every disengagement you practice, reinforces your capacity to invest fully in what matters and prevents your attention from being diluted by trivial or destructive influences. There is a profound freedom in this practice. When you stop responding to those who drain you, you stop being pulled into cycles of anger, frustration, or obligation. Your mental and emotional resources are preserved, allowing you to engage in activities and relationships that matter. The absence of the unworthy does not create emptiness. It creates clarity, focus, and the ability to act intentionally. The life that emerges is richer, more aligned, and more sustainable because it is built on deliberate choices rather than compulsion. Even the act of quiet disengagement has influence. When someone is removed from your orbit, they encounter the reality of their own behavior and its consequences. The patterns they relied upon to manipulate or consume your energy are interrupted, often forcing reflection or adjustment. Meanwhile, you gain the profound advantage of space and control. By removing the unworthy without confrontation, you preserve harmony within yourself while allowing the external world to resolve its own imbalance. Energy, attention, and presence are among the most valuable resources we possess. When they are squandered on people who do not respect or reciprocate them, life becomes scattered, exhausting, and unfulfilling. By practicing selective disengagement, you assert ownership over these resources, ensuring they are directed toward relationships, projects, and pursuits that contribute meaningfully to your life. This is the essence of autonomy, the deliberate choice of how, when, and with whom to share your presence. Over time, this practice transforms not just your interactions, but the very quality of your existence. Spaces once occupied by conflict, manipulation, or exhaustion are now filled with clarity, opportunity, and meaningful engagement. Your focus sharpens, your energy multiplies, and your life aligns more closely with your intentions. Each boundary set, each withdrawal practiced, and each unworthy presence removed contributes to a life lived with sovereignty, purpose, and quiet strength. Control over emotion is the armor of the untouchable. External events have no power unless you grant it. Anger, pride, jealousy, and fear are levers that others instinctively try to pull, hoping to manipulate, distract, or destabilize you. But when you recognize these levers, when you cultivate deliberate indifference toward what does not serve your purpose, their power diminishes. You become predictable only to yourself, and unpredictable to those who would test or control you. The foundation of this armor is awareness, self-discipline, and restraint. Emotions are not enemies but tools. The key lies in understanding which ones serve you and which ones surrender your power. Anger can highlight injustice, but unchecked, it consumes the mind. Pride can drive achievement, but if allowed to rule, it blinds judgment. Fear can protect, but excessive fear immobilizes. By observing these impulses without surrendering to them, you maintain sovereignty over your internal life. You become the governor of your emotional state rather than a subject to the chaos of circumstance. The armor of emotion is strengthened through repetition and reflection. Each encounter where you resist reaction, each situation where you withhold a defensive or reactive impulse, adds to the structure of your inner resilience. This is not suppression, but integration, a way of acknowledging feelings while refusing to be ruled by them. By understanding the triggers that others exploit, you remove the vulnerability they rely upon. Predictability in action is reserved for yourself. To the world, you remain an enigma, unshakable and composed. Stoicism teaches that disturbance comes not from the events themselves, but from our judgment of them. When a slight insult or setback occurs, the power lies in interpretation. By cultivating a mindset that interprets provocations as neutral, external, and often insignificant, the emotional reaction that once followed is replaced by measured observation. The less we allow ourselves to be moved by petty attempts at control, the more energy we preserve for purposeful action. Each moment of equanimity fortifies the inner citadel, rendering manipulation ineffective. Consider how often life tests you in small ways: a rude comment, an unreasonable demand, an unexpected setback. These moments are unavoidable. The difference lies in response. When you recognize your emotional triggers, observe them, and choose restraint, you prevent them from dictating behavior or clouding judgment. Your mind becomes a calm center amid chaos, and each deliberate pause reinforces both confidence and clarity. Emotional armor is built one choice at a time, a process that accumulates quietly but powerfully over time. Jealousy, envy, and fear are common levers others use to influence behavior. Recognizing them and observing their presence without surrendering to them transforms vulnerability into strength. The untouchable understands that the external world can only affect what is granted permission. Each decision to remain centered, to act from reason rather than impulse, adds to the defensive structure that ensures clarity, focus, and freedom. You become unpredictable, not erratic, but intentionally elusive, untouchable because your actions are guided by principle, not provocation. The cultivation of emotional armor requires ongoing reflection. Awareness alone is insufficient. It must be accompanied by disciplined practice. Each time a situation arises that would normally trigger anger, defensiveness, or fear, you have the opportunity to reinforce the armor. Each act of deliberate restraint trains the mind to respond from strength rather than compulsion. The result is not apathy, but mastery, the ability to act decisively, thoughtfully, and with full command of mental and emotional resources. Seneca once said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Emotional mastery functions similarly. When you know how to govern your inner state, no external event can divert your course. Calm becomes a tool, clarity a shield, and restraint a weapon of subtle influence. Each interaction becomes navigable, each provocation manageable, and each challenge an opportunity to practice sovereignty over the mind. Emotional armor allows deliberate action in every circumstance, preserving energy, focus, and composure. Ultimately, the life built through mastery of emotion is one of resilience, purpose, and freedom. External forces may attempt to sway you, to provoke reaction, or to disturb your calm, but the untouchable remains centered. Emotional triggers are observed without surrender, impulses are integrated without compulsion, and energy is preserved for meaningful engagement. Each moment of restraint reinforces autonomy. Each act of deliberate inaction consolidates focus, and the quiet strength that emerges forms the foundation for a life guided by reason, clarity, and inner peace. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." Emotional armor is an expression of that knowledge in practice. Each pause, each controlled response, and each observation of feelings without surrender transforms self-awareness into sovereignty. The untouchable moves through the world with composure, influence, and resilience. By mastering emotional control, you build not just defense, but the freedom to act with intention, the clarity to prioritize what matters, and the strength to remain undisturbed in a world that constantly seeks to provoke, distract, or manipulate. Sometimes the most powerful move is inaction, choosing not to fight, not to prove yourself, not to explain anything that will not serve your purpose. The instinct to respond is strong, and yet the wisdom lies in restraint. By stepping back, by holding your energy instead of giving it away, you preserve focus for what truly matters. Situations often resolve themselves when left unforced, and the act of doing less creates space for clarity, perspective, and strategic advantage. Inaction is not laziness, it is a deliberate exercise of power. Each withheld response, each moment you resist the urge to prove or defend, is a demonstration of control over your own mind and resources. When provoked, choosing stillness forces others to reveal themselves. Their attempts to manipulate, provoke, or draw you into conflict lose effect. By doing nothing, you expose who truly values your presence and who is invested in distractions or illusions. Your calm becomes a mirror reflecting their intentions, and your composure is a signal of sovereignty that cannot be taken lightly. This principle extends to every aspect of life. The need to constantly respond, to justify, to compete, can scatter energy and dilute influence. By observing rather than reacting, you conserve attention and mental clarity. Calculated inaction allows you to act only where impact is meaningful, turning minimal effort into maximum effect. The world becomes predictable in its unpredictability because your response is deliberate, measured, and unshakable. Those who attempt to provoke you may grow frustrated, fascinated, or uncertain, yet you remain grounded, focused, and serene, moving only when it serves the greater purpose of your life. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Inaction allows the darkness to reveal itself, the currents of tension, expectation, and manipulation that others carry. By remaining still, you witness patterns without being drawn into them. Awareness emerges naturally in these moments of deliberate pause, and understanding grows from observation rather than interference. In choosing not to react, you cultivate insight, preserving your energy for what truly aligns with your principles and intentions. Patience is a cornerstone of this strategy. The Stoics teach that time reveals clarity, that wisdom lies in discernment, and that mastery is knowing when to act and when to remain still. Immediate reactions often satisfy impulse, but disrupt judgment. By holding back, you allow consequences to unfold naturally, and in doing so, you gain a perspective unavailable to those who move hastily. Each act of restraint reinforces self-mastery, demonstrating that influence is not gained through forceful action, but through the command of presence and attention. Calculated inaction also sharpens perception. When others expect a response and none is given, their true priorities become evident. You observe who seeks conflict, who desires validation, and who contributes meaningfully to your life. This clarity is invaluable. Those who engage in drama without your participation reveal the limits of their intentions, and you gain insight into the relationships, environments, and situations worthy of your energy. Inaction is a tool not of avoidance, but of strategic discernment. Energy preservation is central to this approach. Every reaction consumes focus, emotional bandwidth, and attention. By choosing inaction, you redirect these resources toward meaningful pursuits. The effort that would have been spent on pointless engagement is instead invested in growth, clarity, and impact. Over time, this disciplined economy of attention strengthens mental resilience and fortifies the inner space where purpose thrives. Each deliberate pause is an act of conservation, a reinforcement of autonomy, and a subtle exercise of influence that multiplies with consistent practice. The impact of inaction is often invisible but profound. Others become curious, unsettled, or fascinated by the fact that your state of mind cannot be swayed by provocation. They attempt to predict your response, to test boundaries, and to draw you into their sphere, yet find only stillness. This stillness communicates authority more powerfully than words or force ever could. By acting less, you exert more influence. By appearing measured, deliberate, and untouchable, you shape perception and outcomes without effort, letting the rhythm of your presence dictate engagement on your own terms. Freedom emerges from this practice. By resisting the compulsion to react, to defend, or to prove, you reclaim control over your time, attention, and energy. Life becomes a series of deliberate choices rather than a chain of impulsive reactions. Your priorities guide action, and distractions fade into insignificance. Each moment of stillness reinforces self-mastery, and each pause creates the conditions for clarity, insight, and effective influence. Sometimes the most profound transformations occur not through action, but through stillness. By withholding reaction, you create space for observation, reflection, and strategic intervention. You reveal who and what truly matters, and who and what does not. The power of inaction lies not in absence, but in presence tempered by restraint. It is the quiet assertion of autonomy, the preservation of energy, and the subtle shaping of influence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." Calculated inaction is the embodiment of that harmony. By choosing where and when to act, you maintain balance, control, and integrity. The world may provoke, distract, and demand, but your energy remains protected, your focus uncompromised, and your inner peace unbroken. Each decision to remain still strengthens clarity, amplifies influence, and secures the freedom that is the foundation of mastery. By understanding the power inherent in deliberate inaction, by observing without reacting, and by preserving energy for what matters, you cultivate a life governed by intention, insight, and sovereignty. The moments of restraint accumulate into authority, the silences into influence, and the deliberate pauses into clarity. Inaction, practiced wisely, becomes more than a strategy. It becomes a state of being, a reflection of mastery, and the ultimate exercise of self-mastery, focus, and enduring freedom. Your power has always been within you. Every pause, every moment of restraint, every choice not to react has been building the life you were meant to live, calm, focused, and untouchable. Carry that strength forward, protect your energy, and move through the world with purpose that cannot be shaken. Take a moment now and watch one of the videos on the screen to continue sharpening your mind, your discipline, and your clarity.